everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. If you are on the West Coast, thank you for getting up early with us. My house has a bunch of chaos of dogs barking and children getting ready for school. If you were somewhere else in the world, maybe you were winding down your day with a different beverage than coffee. Maybe it's in the middle of your day. Wherever you are, join us. Pop into the chat, introduce yourself, share where you're zooming in from. My name is Sarah Lacey. I am part of Dessel Group, and we run VC Lab and Venture Institute and LP Institute and tons of different programs that basically are just trying to get as many people as possible who want to be in the startup and venture capital world in this startup and venture capital world. I was an investigative journalist for 30 years. I've built two startups myself. I've raised tens of millions of dollars of capital. So if you are on this call because you are trying to figure out how to enter this crucial fall fundraising period and you're like, Jesus, take the wheel. Someone tell me how to do this. I've been in your shoes. We have two incredible panelists here who are going to give you even better advice than I could. Armand and Joe, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves in more detail because one of the things that's so cool about both of these panelists and one of the reasons we picked them for you today is they aren't just like some stuffy LPs who manage some family office. They're really people who've been like on every side of the table. They've been operators, they've been investors. They also, invest. They've both been through LP Institute, so they invest in VCs. They're really full tool players in the startup ecosystem, and so they've really been on every side of the table. So they bring a lot of empathy to this conversation for every position. So I'm going to let them give a more full explanation of who they are. And maybe you can also, along with it, say, what is one lesson of raising money that you learned the hard way, maybe early in your career or maybe recently in your career? And Armand, why don't you go first?
Yeah, bonjour everybody from Paris. So my name is Armand. I'm a LP Institute alumnus and I'm limited partner. So my background is 20 years plus as an operator, a CTO, and an operating partner in mobility, consumer electronics, and art tech and green tech. And I operate all across Europe, the US, and Southeast Asia. So now I combine this operator experience with my LP role just to help fund managers, startup executive, to kind of like know more about this ecosystem. So that's why I'm here. And to answer your question, Sarah, lesson learned the hard way is, well, it's kind of obvious, but like raising money is kind of it's a human game, and it's also the fact that you have to be mentally prepared of most of the people saying to you no, and this is hard. You have to learn the hard way is you will get like maybe 95 no for 5 years. So it's just the way it is, and you have to be, when you start this venture, you have to be prepared of that, and don't take it personal.
Yes, and we will come back to that. I want to get more tips on how you mentally prepare because I'm sure that it's easier said than done. Well, I'm not sure. I know from experience. All right, great. We will come back to that point. Joe, let's go over to you. Tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got into being an LP, some of your experience, and something that you've learned the hard way.
Yeah, hi everybody. Nice to meet you. Joe Harkins, based in Los Angeles, an LP as well. And I'm a graduate of the VC Lab LP Institute Cohort 3, which was great. So I'm always happy to participate and very, very glad to be here with you all today. My background is in media and entertainment technology and enterprise SaaS, and I've got about 20 years of experience in that. The last roughly decade, I've been doing corporate development, which you can think of as mergers and acquisitions, and a lot of work around software valuations and doing work to try to either find a good fit for a company or acquire a company, things of that nature. So I've definitely seen a lot of different things in the fundraising world, both from the VC and LP side, and then on the exit side as well. One thing I'd say, kind of kind of piggybacking off of what Armin said a little bit, which is that you need to be resilient when you're fundraising because, yeah, you're going to hear a lot of no's. And if you're not resilient, if you don't have the same attitude you had on the very first call that you had, you'll end up, kind of holding that against everyone in the process. So you have to wake up every day resilient and expecting that you're just not going to hear a yes. And then when you get one, then it's an exciting moment. So definitely agree with what Armin had to say there. And I think that's a critical trait to be successful in venture capital is to be resilient all around.
It's not a Zoom call until someone talks on mute, is it? I love that you said that word, Joe, because I've got a 14-year-old, and I always say every time someone says, like, what is the one? I was just filling out a a high school application. They said, what is the one adjective you use for her? And I always say resilient. And she's a dancer, and she's in this dance company, and there's so many kids that like don't get a role, or they get a role one semester, they don't get it, they get pulled out of the program. And my kid has many negative flaws, but her one thing that is core to her is her resilience. She can get kicked in the teeth in every way again and again and again, and just takes a deep breath and gets back up. And I have to say, I cannot take credit for this in any way as a mother. I think it's just innate and born in her. Speaking of that resilience, is that something either of you cultivated? Is it something you had to work hard at? Is it something where some people just have that and so they're cut out for this? How do you find and tap into that resilience during this process? And either one of you can hop in. I'd love to hear from both of you on this.
Joe?
Yeah, I think it definitely is developed early, right? Like you're referencing your kid having resilience there, and I think that's just a trait you get early on. You fall down, you get back up, and that really is what it is. So there's not a lot more to it than that. It's just getting up every day and having that ability to move forward regardless of what happened yesterday and the day before and all the days preceding that. So it can be hard sometimes, but you just have to get used to the idea that you're not going to hear what you want to hear all the time, and and also your ideas are not just going to get validated because you had it, right? That's something that I think a lot of people get frustrated with. There's a lot of expectations, especially around VCs, and then of course LPs have expectations of GPs and venture capital, but then VCs have expectations of founders that they go out and they're trying to fund, and they're also looking for those resilient people that are building a startup, right? That are going to be successful, not just in fundraising from the fund they're talking to with them, but also in general, right? So all around, you're kind of looking for that ecosystem of people that are excited about the future and are willing to fall down and fail. Hopefully fail fast, and get back up and try again.
Great. What would you add to that, Armand?
Yeah, I would say that, it's like for every hobby or passion, it's about the drive, I mean, you need to make sure why you're there, why you're starting this venture, and what is the reason why you're there. Because, I mean, if you don't like it, it's going to be hard and long because we're talking about a 10 years journey, maybe 12, 8 if you're lucky or very good. So you need to make sure that you are here for the proper reason. For example, in my case, it's a drive for tech to be exposed to new technology and to be exposed to bright minds. So you need to make sure that you're comfortable with that, and the rest is just like the tools or the consequences of this drive. So this is what brings you the resilience, but you have to make sure that you love what you are doing, so that you can bring enough resilience to keep going, to keep around, and accept all the good time and the bad time of this journey, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I think one other thing that I would add to this just from the founder perspective of raising money, which is, kind of the same as an emerging manager because you are a founder. I used to have co-teach a course for women on negotiation. And one of the things that was so important for women was to like reframe hearing the word no, and that your goal is to hear the word no, because if you haven't heard the word no, you've left too much on the table. Like you basically you haven't asked for your full worth. You've probably settled. You've probably been conditioned into what you've been paid in the past or been given in the past. So your true north is getting a no. So then you can find out really what is the amount that you should be paid, or the amount your company should be sold for, or what you should buy this car for, house for, whatever it is you're negotiating for. And so I think it's a bit the same whenever you're starting a new company or a new venture. If you're really starting something new and different, if you're really out there pushing it, if you're not getting a good number of no's, then you're probably not putting forward a different viewpoint, something new in the market, something that's going to be that edge that's going to cut through the noise.
Yeah, true. Definitely, yeah.
Well, I would be remiss in not saying that one of the things that I think helps with that resilience, helps with getting those rejections, is being part of a community. And certainly, you guys have both found that with some of the programs that we do at Dessel Group, particularly VC Lab. And if there's people who are listening, who are building a fund, who are thinking about doing a fund, we are in the process of doing our 19th cohort of VC Lab. We've helped launch 800 funds. It's something like 60% of all emerging funds. So if you're listening to this and you want to learn more, you're looking for community, I think there's some resources in the chat that Dominica is going to put in there. So make sure you check that out. I should have said that at the beginning, but I have more coffee now, so I'm able to do my job in a way I wasn't there. But while we're on that topic, talk a little bit about community, both of you, because fundraising can be such a lonely sport. And how important is that to be able to have either partners, or if you don't have partners, people you trust that you can bounce things off? Because when you're out there with a deck and you're fundraising, it's important to both take feedback but not take feedback, because we've talked about you're just going to get no's maybe 95% of the time, and that's the nature of the beast, right? You're not going to be for everybody. People are getting so many pitches, they're looking for reasons to say no, not looking for reasons to say yes. So it's not like you can go around changing your pitch deck every time you get a no, but at the same time, maybe there is feedback you should be taking. So, how do you know when you should take feedback and change your pitch, when you should not take feedback? Should you pitch a few people, go back and retool? Should you pitch widely? Do you need a trusted person to pitch against? How do you think about when you should take feedback and not take feedback when you're getting no's while you're pitching?
Well, I would say, I mean, starting from the beginning, well, if your pitch deck is done, it means that you done all the proper work to get to this pitch deck, which is just like the end of the story. Well, maybe the beginning, well, depending on the perspective. But to get to this deck, um, you have to be honest about yourself, about your capability, about your network, because when you will, present your slides and your deck, I mean, what you are articulating to the LPs is your ability to bring and to source good deals as early as possible. And what is it? What makes you special? Among other people to be the one who gonna source those best deals. And so you need to demonstrate your capability to access the network, to be connected, to be network on your scene. And it's also, you need to prove that, okay, I know what are the good parties in town, but I need also to demonstrate how I could be part of the parties, to get to these deals and be part of the deal. So to get to the deck, you need to demonstrate, your track record. You need to demonstrate if you did markup with a previous investment as an angel investors, or maybe you were dealing with a previous fund before. So you have to articulate all of that. So, I mean, the confidence you will bring to the deck is just the result of all this data that will be present in the deck that shows that, well, you're confident to be in front of me and
Mhm.
you're prepared. and you've been working on this for a long time. And of course, as you were saying, you need kind of sparring partners, some people that can like help you out, that can give you advices. And as a as an early manager, as a new manager, like the VC Lab program is something that is really well articulate for that, because it will show you how the different steps to make it using the best practices, and make sure you don't waste your time, and you are super focused, because it's a game of being transparent, not make people waste their time, go straight to the point, and all that. So yeah, you need to make sure, uh, at least, in fact, you need to articulate that you build the best team. You build the good team. I mean, could be venture partner, could be your co-GP, but you need to show that you have the team to be part of the game, basically. If that answer your question, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, great. So it sounds like really just kind of like owning your special sauce, being really clear in your
Exactly.
narrative, really clear in your track record, not wasting people's time, being confident, and kind of if you hit those, you're not going to do a bad pitch. That because that's you.
Yeah, exactly. And especially for new manager, because most of the new manager have different backgrounds. Some are coming from the tech space, some are coming from the finance, some are coming from business school. So you need to kind of leverage as much as you can your background, basically.
hmm Joe, what are your thoughts on what are the key components of a pitch? Or are there times when you're getting no's and you need to listen to those no's and rethink things?
Yeah, I think well, going back to your first question on community you asked a minute ago, I think it's really important just to talk about Decile Group. I think as an LP, it's a lonely community where there's not like some LP hangout or something. So one of the reasons that uh, I joined the LP Institute cohort was to meet other LPs and see how do they do things. What's a process? Decile Group is great at putting together a framework and a process in order for you as an LP to have a thesis and decide what is the best approach for me to invest. But it also gives you a place to talk to others, right? So you can test your ideas with others who are either in a similar boat or maybe have a different view, because there's also VCs that are in the group. So you get access to things like a Slack group that gives you a whole variety of people, whether it's up and coming emerging managers, maybe some founders that are figuring out what to do, how to raise funds, LPs, and so on. And just having people to talk to gives you a lot of ideas, and you can test your ideas with people you don't know who have the background that you're looking for, right? Oftentimes, if you go to people that they want you to win. So they're going to give you feedback that it's honest, but it may not be the feedback that you need, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And so
That's a good
to get
point.
the feedback you need, you got to test it. And the way to do that is to actually put yourself in a situation that's uncomfortable, right? And to find people that are going to challenge you and give you honest feedback. And I think, to the second part of your question, which Harmon also addressed, uh, what to look for in a pitch. I think you're looking for authenticity would be what I would say is my number one thing. I'm looking for authenticity to come through. If it looks like a generic pitch where I could replace a person with any person, and the pitch itself is not necessarily unique to that individual, then they've missed the mark in my view, right? Because they've failed to tap into their unique experience, their life experience, their domain expertise that they've developed, and the unique perspective and view on the world, which is what they're bringing to the table. If you think about it, when you're looking at emerging managers or just any investor, you're looking for their view on the world, and you want to understand what's unique about their view. How is it that they've developed that view, and what is it that they're convicted in? So when you understand their convictions, their kind of their passions, that starts to come out in conversation, And that can be on the pitch deck as well, but you'll hear it in the words that they're saying, in the sort of the presentation itself, the attitude that they have when they pitch, and all of that comes through pretty clearly. So you can tell like who's authentic or not, genuinely. I mean, it can be whether it's a founder, an LP, or a VC, or anybody really. If they're passionate about it and they want something to work, they'll have that drive, and you'll be able to see that. And other people will see that, and they'll give you good feedback. And eventually you'll get a good, solid pitch deck and a good story, and you'll go out and you'll pitch it, and you'll hear a no, and then you'll be like, okay, well,
So
I'm gonna do that
frustrating.
again. But
I
you'll
can relate.
realize like not everybody agrees, and that's okay. You're gonna find people that understand you, your story, and want to back you, and that's what you're looking for.
I
Yeah,
love
yeah. I
that
mean,
answer so much. It's it's so one of my favorite things about working at this company is getting to know the emerging managers because they're so fascinating and they're all completely different. And I think right now we're at this period of venture capital where sort of the middle is getting sort of hollowed out and everything is either like this gigantic mega fund or these really small, scrappy, small funds. And so much media and press is being put on these gigantic funds. I think everyone's missing the story of what's going on at this end of the barbell, which is where the real venture capital is happening because like this isn't even really venture capital anymore. And I have so loved getting to talk to all of the emerging managers that are coming out of our programs because it's exactly what you said, Joe. They all have such a unique worldview. And I'd never really put it together, but it's like that's why they're getting funded because they all have these really unique worldviews. And it's the most I've been in this industry for 30 years. It's the most entrepreneurial that venture capital has ever felt to me before. Um, I'd love to hear that's such a great, people always say what I said a minute ago, like people when you're raising money, people are looking for reasons to say no, not reasons to say yes. And you just gave us a really clear, specific, this is one of the things I'm looking for is a reason to say no. Can either of you give us other things that you see as a pitch of like, okay, this is a really easy no for me. This is I know this isn't gonna work. This is an easy way for me to pass. What are other like red flags, other things that'll get someone disqualified?
Yeah. Uh,
well,
Go ahead, Arvin.
go ahead, Joe. Go ahead.
Well, it's
No
a
one
tough
wants to
one.
be the bad guy, but you're helping them.
Well, yeah. I mean, look, it kind of goes with the answer I already gave. If you don't have something specific to say, and your pitch is very generic, um, like, oh, we're just going to invest in everything, and we'll find something that works because we're always on the latest and greatest cutting edge technologies, and they start just putting out keywords. There's not a specific domain expertise that they're portraying. That doesn't work. So when I hear a fund manager who's like, I'll invest in any startup I believe in, well, that's not good. I want to hear about the particular kind of startup that you're interested in as a manager and backing, and why you think you have a value add to that particular group of founders, right? Because anybody can write a check to a founder. The VCs that can add value, which you were talking about, the difference between like the big funds and say the emerging funds, that is one of the things that the emerging managers can do that the bigger funds have a harder time with, right? The bigger funds have a mandate to deploy a certain amount of capital maybe in a set period of time. And they might have a lot of people, very talented people on it. But when you're an emerging manager and you have a smaller team, you usually have that domain expertise and that specific view that you've developed. And so you've got your opportunity then to be unique. So if you're just trying to be generic and do everything, I mean, that for me is like a kind of a red flag, right? Um, Also, and I know Armin will probably add to this. He said this earlier. It is a long-term journey. It's a 10, maybe 12-year journey, and like Armin said, 8 years if you're good. But most likely it's not. It's going to be 10 years plus. So if you're not dedicated for 10 years, and you start talking about you're going to get a return in 1 or 3 years, the conversation's over before it began because you're not really dedicated to the hard work that's going to go into it. So that's the other thing that I look for. That's people that are going to be around a while that understand it, and that aren't just giving you the latest and greatest buzzwords for their pitch, right?
Hmm. Great. What would
And
you add?
I would say also like a, a manager is working a lot on his pitch deck because this is the material you need to know. But I guess a good sign that you are doing your job well is when you're pitching without necessitating your deck. Most of the time when you switch to the conversation mode and not like a slide presentation mode, it's a very good sign because uh, what early managers sometimes miss is, you're going to have a 10 years relationship. So those people don't know you. They need to get to know you. They need to know why you are here. What is your story? What is your background? What is your motivation? You need to build some trust. You need to make sure that there's a fit. And it's like it's a human relationship. So you have to kind of make sure of the psychology of your LP, his objectives, his constraints, and so that you can kind of like you can customize your pitch, and also it's this business is your currency is transparency. It's focus and consistency. This is what you sell, and this is what you have. So you need to build it. You need to keep it all along the way, and so make sure you never overpromise and under deliver, and make sure you keep consistent because, like as Joe was saying, like okay, we are the best fund, we have the best deal, and what are your expected returns? And I mean, be very realistic. Of course, nobody is exciting about a 3x exit, but maybe you won't sell a 100x, like kind of to find the middle ground to make it kind of realistic. So basically be realistic, be prepared, and be transparent. And I think this is the good way to kind of like you need to create a relationship and build this relationship and keep it with the LP. And I think you need also to make sure what are the LP archetype that you are looking for, because any fund doesn't correspond to any type of investor. So most of the emerging manager we are talking to right now are creating small fund on seed, pre-seed level. So maybe you will waste your time trying to raise money for institutional investors. Like it's no use doing that. And so make sure you can demonstrate the niche where you're operating, and this is the way. It's a human game basically.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's sales at the end of the day.
Yeah, it sells exactly.
And sales is like a human business. I mean,
Yeah.
sorry, AI, it's still a human business. So let's talk a little bit. I have two other things I want to cover, and then we'll go to some questions. And for anyone listening, if you want to put questions just in the Q&A field, I know we've got a couple in there already, but not too many. So if anyone has any questions, go pop them in there, and I'll get to those in just a sec. So we sort of wanted to put together this event because there's this seasonality that goes into pitching. A lot of people take time off in August, and then obviously at the holidays they're going to take time off. So we're kind of coming out of this slow period, and then we've got this like crunch where you can get out and you can fundraise before we go back into a slow period. It's interesting. We actually, in our data, saw we had actually our managers had a pretty good August, but now we're starting to see a little bit of a slowdown in the beginning of September, and we kind of saw that in our numbers last year too. There's something about people get back, and it's like I don't know if it's just kind of like the beginning of school when you're like, oh, we're back in this. Now we got to get back to the grindstone, or maybe people's calendars are flooded with meetings, or people just aren't quite ready to get back to the hustle yet. There's always seems to be a little bit of a slowdown in the first couple weeks of September as people are kind of staring down the barrel of that sort of fall fundraising push. Can both of you talk a little bit about like the seasonality of fundraising? One of the other sort of things that I've done a lot is write a lot of books. I also own a bookstore, and there's the same seasonality when it comes to publishers. They all leave town in August. They all leave town at the holidays. And there's always this kind of game theory of should you be the one book that goes out in August because publishers need to read something on vacation? Is there a logic to sending something right before November? Or because if you go out in September, is everyone pitching in September? Can you overthink the seasonality? Are there tips to trying to raise money when everyone is coming out? How do y'all think about that?
Yeah, I think well, it's interesting the data that you just kind of pointed out. I have no basis in this whatsoever, but my theory on that is that it has to do with tax season. You've got the tax season in the spring, and then you have the other one in the fall. And when you invest in venture capital, you're receiving K-1s as you're part of a partnership, effectively. And often those are late, and so you end up doing your filings more like September, October,
Mm,
typically. So, you have a better sense of your capital, I think, in those kind of those summer months where you can deploy. And then also, it's just less demand is sort of on your time overall, like you said, holidays and other things that come up. So the other thing is that you've got a lot of changes that happen sort of seasonally in the market where you're expecting, if you're investing in venture, right, you're not really looking at the world through the same lens that when you're investing in like an index fund, right? So like an index fund, I'm not reading the news. I don't care about the day to day. It's a long term play, right? So whatever happens, happens. The market will go up and the market will go down. In the VC world, it is very sensitive to the news of sort of the moment. So you can have these big surges where you read about several companies raising big rounds, and that then creates sort of a foam in the water kind of effect where everybody sees, oh, there's a feeding frenzy right now. Well, let's get in on this. Let's raise, now, and they'll see other companies' success as an indicator that they should raise. Another example is like when companies IPO successfully, as they have this year. Fortunately, the IPO market is coming back. That also encourages companies to raise, and it encourages people to invest that are writing the checks. So I think there's a lot of things that happen throughout the various cycles of both the investment cycle and then the individual cycle that we all have, where your time is sort of limited, and you just do these investments kind of in chunks in a way. So yeah, no, hopefully nobody's sitting around all of December, ignoring their family, thinking about writing checks. And likewise for founders, it can be tough because they're just trying to do their startup, right? And the fund managers are trying to deploy their capital. So you have to live with this seasonality that exists, whether it's, the summer being busy for someone or the fall being busy for someone else. You just have to learn to live with the results of that and, be patient because people might not get back to you right away. You're not
mhm.
always going to get a response right away. So I don't know if that answered your question, Sarah, or
Yeah.
if that was good. But yeah,
And the
Armin, I'm
tax
sure
thing
you've
is
got some
fascinating.
other insights to add.
Oh yeah, I would say if you're talking, for example, about like high net worth individuals, it's kind of obvious. They go on holiday from June, and they just like stop everything until end of August, and by the end of the year, you have all the closing, and they need to allocate, so they are kind of on a rush to invest. So you need to sense that. I mean, for corporate investor, it might be a bit different because there's more focused process. But yeah, basically it's kind of like the seasonality. Like don't push too much effort between July and August because you will waste your time. Maybe just keep the conversation, but as a background noise, and then just catch up in September. And of course, Q1 and Q2 are the beginning. I think this is like the first semester where you have to be very active because I guess you do your work at the first semester, and you're trying to close as much as you can from October to early December, because after it's the same thing. It's Christmas holidays, and it's over. So
So
then,
do you think most people deploy towards that back end of the year because then it's like, okay, I'm going to figure out what I'm going to do for the rest of the year? At the beginning of the year, are you thinking, oh, I want to hold on to some to see what comes up? Do you think about like sort of first half of the year, back half of the year in any certain way? Or is it just
No,
me, interesting manager?
well, as far as I'm concerned, I think it's an opportunist game. So I guess for the type of LP I know, it's about like what sort of deal you are exposed to and how fast you can close it, whatever the timing, you know. So you don't you don't want to miss a good deal even if it's in at the middle of August. So I would say there's no rules. This is just the general trend. But if you bring a good deal to LP in July, I'm sure it would be interested for sure.
Yeah. And like I said, we had a lot of managers closing in August, so it can be done. It can be done. Let me ask one final question, and then we're going to go to some questions in the chat. Um,
Mm.
one of the things that I know they spend a lot of time in VC Lab talking about is how to be as efficient as possible when you're pitching a lot of LPs. We talked earlier about how you might get 95% of your meetings are no's. What is y'all's rule of thumb? Because I always hear very different ideas on, like, for instance, should you pitch LPs in person or not? Because that might involve getting on a plane, which if that person blows off the meeting or it's a no, might have been a waste of time and money. But we've talked about how a relationship is really important and being authentic is really important, and that's something that can be done in person much more. So, how do you guys think about how to have as many high throughput of meetings as possible, not wanting to waste LP's time, not wanting to waste your times, but putting yourself in the best position to really make that connection with someone?
I would say, I mean, we are lucky now. I mean, since the COVID, like most of people are using, you know, video calls, and so it makes it really easier because, you know, say to raise a pre-seed fund, you will need to talk to maybe 400, 500 people to maybe secure 80 of them. So you need to interact a lot and call a lot. So I guess at the very beginning you need to make sure that it's worth spending your time. Maybe don't go through you know the full deck. Maybe send a 1-2 pager if there's some kind of dynamic on that, and kind of secure the conversation and secure the interest to go through the full conversation. You know, with VC Lab, you will be teach to to ask for pack signing before going further. So just to secure your time and making sure there's some interest. But you know, you have a funnel, 400 to 80, for example. So it's months and months. And what I would say is also like this is not a theory game. You need to be on the field. So you need to call, you need to talk, you need to pitch, you need to pitch again, you need to pitch again and again, and to repeat again and again and again. So it's kind of a tiring exercise, but there's no other way. I mean, you have to practice to
Mhm.
kind of like fine tune your game, sharpen your story, make sure that you can demonstrate what is it that makes you special. And this is like it's learning by doing basically.
Yeah. What would you add to that, Joe?
Yeah, I think all that was great, and I totally agree. I would say, the the thing about like pitching in person, right, is you obviously you can't do that with everyone. So you do kind of have to think of it as a sales funnel. Honestly, I think the way Armin portrayed it is actually pretty good. Like it is a funnel in a way. And if you limit yourself to your in-person network, people that you're able to physically interact with on a regular basis, you're probably not going to have a big enough network. So you've got to tap into a bigger network, and that's going to involve a lot of Zoom calls, a lot of virtual meetings. As an LP, I might take an initial 15-minute call, right? To get a read on the person. What do I think of them as an individual? What do I think of what they have to say? I'm not really listening to their pitch yet. I just want to see, do I have a connection here or not?
Mhm.
And so that'll be a very brief call, and you can do a lot of those very quickly, right? So if you spend too much time or you invest too much into one relationship, you won't see the rest of your funnel effectively, and you won't close your fund, you won't actually raise. And that's something that LPs actually respond to and look for. They want to hear that you have a broad network and that you're raising from a diverse set of LPs that are going to invest in you as a manager, right? So it kind of helps when you're talking to someone that they say, yeah, I'm meeting with lots of people, and I'm hoping to close by X date, and this is the progress I've made, and I'll stay in touch with you. And you want to see that they're busy, and that they're almost inevitably, for a venture capital, they're always in fundraising mode, right?
Yeah.
So almost everything they do is around fundraising. So yeah, you can meet people with in-person networking events and do different things, but your network nowadays, the expectation is you're going to be on Zooms a lot. You're going to be doing a lot of virtual pitching, and people are going to judge you based on your ability to do those calls. So you just have to kind of get used to the world we're in. But it can help you because you'll reach more people that way, and it can really be the difference in whether or not you're successful with closing your fund.
Yeah.
I
And
would say, oh,
oh, sorry, go
sorry.
ahead.
Yeah,
No.
I would say also that be aware that some LP will make you waste your time, because some of them are here to just watch the industry, get insights, and I think the tough game is to kind of build your dictionary of what a yes means, when a yes means a no, when a yes means a yes or a maybe, and this is quite hard to sense at the beginning, but uh, basically LP will never say no most of the time. I mean, rarely, because they keep option for the future. So you need to make sure that this yes is like, oh, okay, I'm waiting for the next round, or I'm not interested yet. Show me that you're
Or
good, and
it's
I'll,
just a
I'll be
little
back.
too early for me.
Yeah, exactly. So this is what you need to learn, by doing.
Oh, that's such a good point. That's such a good point. All right. So we're going to go to some questions from the audience. And just to remind folks again, I think that our sort of cohort 19 is like closing the doors this month for sure. So go check it out if you want to be part of it. I know that cohort 17 was record breaking for us in terms of the amount of money they raised, in terms of the speed of raising money. There's a lot of media right now that emerging managers aren't raising money. We are not seeing that in the data. We are seeing quite the opposite. If you want to know more about that, the CEO of Dessel Group and I were just on TechCrunch's Strictly VC podcast talking about the data and why this is a misnomer in the market. So we don't think there's ever been a better time to jump into the market. And we've got a cohort about to close if you want to know more about all this stuff. All right, let's get to some questions. All right, Rebecca, I think this is such an astute question. Rebecca says, it feels like many VCs are quite generalist in their portfolio, although they may have a more narrow investment thesis in their communication. How much do LPs care about the initial investment focus? I think that happens a lot. People have this beautiful thesis and they get really excited about AI or something else, or they feel like they have to switch to what's the game on the field, or they get FOMO. How would y'all address this idea of, is your thesis really what you're going to be investing in? And once you're in a fund, does that bother you?
Yeah, I would say that one of the key role as a LP is to make sure that a GP demonstrate the way they source deal, their sourcing process, their unfair advantage, and how do they process to secure some deals. Most of the time, it's about like maybe 0.5% of all the deal you are exposed to. So you need to be like super strict. So I guess when a GP has a very generic thesis, if he can demonstrate that he has a very thorough process to make sure that he has criteria to source the best deal in this generic thesis, why not? It's all good because it means more opportunities. And but I'm more for like the niche thesis. uh, that are consistent with the GP profile and background, and the way he demonstrates his network and his access to deals. So there's no rule. I mean, if you're generic, you need to have a very good process, and if you niche, you need to demonstrate that you are part of this ecosystem where you can access these deals super early on.
Hmm. Anything to add, Joe?
Well, I agree with all of that. I would just say, you have to have something that you're saying specific to you. Like Armand said, what is your advantage, right? What is your unique advantage as a GP? And if you can't articulate that well, whether it's your deal flow or how you're going to add value, what your unique perspective is, you got to be able to get specific about those things. Um, and that's important, whether it's a niche fund or a generalist fund or however you want to view the world, you've got to have your view developed and you've got to be able to communicate that really well.
Yeah. All right, let's move on. Gaurav, hopefully I'm saying your name correctly. I apologize if not. Says, when I meet with VCs, most of them are only talking about IRR. What do LPs really care about other than returns? I know we've talked a lot about authenticity. I know we've talked a lot about worldview. So I want to take this question in a slightly different direction. When you're a new manager, how do you get around this issue of returns? Do you have to have been an angel investor before? How do you demonstrate that you're someone who's going to have a good track record if you may not have an investing track record yet?
Yeah,
Well,
tough.
that's the chicken and egg problems
I
It's
know.
tough.
we all have. Um, I would say, I mean, say you're coming from a tech background, maybe you could demonstrate that as a good operator, you have this kind of like a mindset to spot and secure deals, because I guess in the scene, you also have to demonstrate that you're a person that people will come to if they have issues, or they need to exchange, or kind of like exchange ideas. So there's a lot of things you can demonstrate as an operator. Uh, It's better if you do at least few angel investment, and maybe secure few deals while you're raising. I mean, a good way also when you raise money is maybe to do kind of what we call like a deal warehouse. You secure some deals with safe deals. So it's also a good way to demonstrate. Okay, I have no background, but now I'm into the game. I already secured like five or six startups that are ready to join the fund when I'm ready. So deal warehouse is a good way to demonstrate that are you ready to get into the game, and also I think you need also to demonstrate how you can connect with the best people and the best network to help you out for the fund. It could be a good connection who has a background on the fund management because you are not so good at it. A good connection for a different type of venture partner with various profiles that are necessary for portfolio management, for deal sourcing, for uh, securing out the fund, because for early managers, what is also good as a differentiator is your ability to support the fund portfolio. Because a lot of funds says like, okay, we are here, we bring smart money, we're gonna help our startups, and few of those guys actually do that. And if you can demonstrate that you can support your portfolio in a proper way as a good operating partner, is also a good way to differentiate and make sure that you can prove that you are able to manage a good portfolio.
Great. Monique has a couple interesting questions. One is, what is the role of contributions on social media in evaluating a manager? And the other is, what does the process look like to invest in a VC if you don't know them? The reason I bring up both of these is, I know at VC Lab, we talk a lot about the first close really has to come from your network. But Joe, you mentioned earlier that, you're going to have to get beyond your network. So, how does it used to be a rule in Silicon Valley that if you were going to raise money from a VC, it had to come from a warm intro. Like you weren't really just taking a cold call, but that's kind of changed in the world now. How do you guys think about, do you want someone who's able to get to you? Is that a sign of their hustle? How do you think about their public profile? What goes into you taking a call from someone you don't know?
Yeah, I mean, I think it kind of goes in line with the last question where you're looking for a track record of success, whether it's operator success, like meaning that they've been an operator in a company or they've worked in a particular field for a length of time and have shown an amount of success in that. There needs to be a demonstrable track record associated with that person. So, um, enthusiasm, a a certain number of posts a week or something, that's not going to really do it. It's you have to be showing that you have some kind of success that you're building on, and there's a reason why, especially if you're an emerging manager, why have you decided now is the right time for you to raise a fund, right? And what is it that you're projecting in the world? And you do have to get comfortable kind of projecting that out there. You can't just say, I'm raising a fund, and you have to follow the rules and everything. But you do have an opportunity to share your worldview with everyone, and that worldview should hopefully be consistent. So, like if I go back and I look at who you are, there is a track record of success and a consistent view that you've built upon, right? That I can see, and I can kind of test that before I have my initial call.
But would you take just like a cold email from someone? Do meetings from cold emails, or do you want someone to be
I
introduced to you?
I have had plenty of cold intros where I've taken the meeting, especially from Decile Group.
Mhm.
Yeah.
If they went through a Decile Group program, that's almost a validator for me. It's like a rubber stamp where I can go, well, I know the criteria and I know how difficult that is. So, yeah, I mean, I'll answer those. I do expect some kind of personalization and not some AI generated email. So
Yeah.
I definitely will filter those out. If it looks like you just wrote this email to 500 people, probably I'm not going to be responding.
Yep, great.
Yeah.
Okay, we have 1 minute. Final word, Armin?
I mean, it's a game where you need to trust also serendipity. You just accept to be exposed to things you haven't expected and embrace it. Like for the deals, yeah, I take calls for people I don't know because you never know. There's might be an opportunity behind. So don't be shy about that. So just be prepared and make sure you always adapt to new stuff, basically.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much. This is extremely generous for both of you to give us an hour of your time to help folks out as they're hopefully starting this journey to be part of what has been a really, really incredible sort of remaking of the industry on the small, scrappy end of the barbell. I hope to see some of you in our new cohort 19. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you at a future session. And good luck with the flood of pitches y'all are about to get in the busy fall.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Sarah.
everybody. Thank you,
Thanks.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.